That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you for that. So, before we begin the session, I would like to address the need of this topic. In obviously in the last 2 days, we have been hearing a lot about how D2C is growing and exploring in India, and in the past, after COVID, it has taken it has exploded into a huge industry. What obviously we have seen is the beauty brands who took approximately 20 years to cross 100 crore have now been able to achieve 100 crore in just few years. I was hearing the last session, and a very good friend of ours, Param, he addressed that he reached 100 crore in 15 months. And that's a huge achievement. And I think that's the power of D2C, where the scale can be achieved really fast. With that, obviously comes the responsibility. How do you achieve those scales? What are those factors which contributes to this scale? And how do you go through this journey? Now, with us, obviously, we have some of the best brands in India who will be speaking on this topic. Obviously, the potential is huge. We are here to understand what it takes for D2C brand to succeed in this market. Now, with that, I would start the opening questions on what do you think, in your view, are the key elements to success in D2C, and what sort of outcome do you perceive when you think about those key elements? So I'll start with Abhinav.
Thanks a lot, Vipul. So, see, D2C is something that is, as Vipul said, it is a driver of growth for both young and mature companies. Now, I don't think there's any company worth its weight and salt who does not have a strong D2C campaign or ambitions at the very least. In my view, to succeed in D2C, something that I would talk about what we've done primarily and touch on one or two elements. We mean Dot, which is a plant-based meat company. We have focused very strongly on two key aspects, which is the message of the brand, talking about communicating to the customers what the brand stands for. Because you have to, in today's day and age, with so many competitions across any and every category, you have to stand out. Why should a consumer buy brand X and not brand Y, company X and not company Y? So we focus very strongly on that in communicating to us what is our USP. The second aspect that we talk about is the actual product, because we are in a very niche category. So you really have to cater or rather model your own value proposition to the consumer in ensuring that they understand what the category is about. We are a plant-based meat category. Most people don't even know what that is. Versus if you're selling a pair of jeans, you don't have to do that. So you have to be concerned about what are you going to talk about, the nitty-gritties or a big picture. So we focus initially on the big picture. We talk about in terms of the product and in terms of the category. So the messaging is very, very key for us, and that's what we focus very strongly on. So I don't want to, do a laundry list of things, because I'm sure my fellow panelists will also want to talk about other things. Thank you.
Makes sense. So basically what we're saying is your brand promises and the USP are the key element when it comes to D2C success. Now, over to you. What do you think about it, Sangram? I mean, do you want to add to this?
So yeah, I think, hi, Sangram Sawant. I'm the founder of Pescafresh. We founded the first D2C seafood and meats brand way back in 2005. Just a little bit of introduction. So I think just adding to what Abhinav said is there are enough brands out there which have been traditional, been going through modern trade, general trade, and other channels also. But the differentiation of what your product stands for, so there are two things, right? Is your product really different? So I mean, we sell fish, but what was the differentiation? That we shrunk the supply chain. We could get it from point A to point B in probably half the time. We sell chicken. Chicken is, I think, one of the most commoditized meats. But what is the differentiation? So ours is the only brand in India that does the no antibiotic ever. Mark my words, ever is the key word, not antibiotic-free feed, antibiotic-free residue. So we do the mutton, we source it directly from Rajasthan. So it's the tendermost mutton. So every of our sub-brands in the meats carries a differentiation. And how do you get that message across? Now, you could do the best advertising, you could get the best influencer, you could do all of that stuff, but if your product is not actually standing for what it promises, then you got a big problem, right? It's like good advertising will kill a bad product faster. So I think first is to probably fix the product, have your differentiation, how different you are, and frankly, there's no point launching Me Too brands. And that's the beauty about D2C, right? And that's just my 2 bits, I would like to hand it over to the fellow panelists. But pretty much dovetailing into what he mentioned.
No, it makes sense. But when you say differentiation, I mean, one of my experiences, obviously every brand try to have a differentiation in the product. Now, to what extent can you say, okay, this is a differentiation, and how do you verify that, okay, I've achieved a differentiator in the market? Is it a metric that you follow, or is it, or the number of customers probably? What's that key factor?
So I think one thing is the fact that your brand is working is when your repeats are there. So your cohort of repeat customers, whether in D2C brands, I believe it's like 47, 48% is supposed to be a good cohort. But at Pesca, we're at close to 78%. So the customer actually decides, right, that are they feeling that differentiation? Are you going to be able to get all these little things done and change that consumer experience? Now, you may have the best product, but you may have a poor experience on your app. So that's also going to be a problem. So it's gone beyond even product. So I think the customer really decides that. But if you see technically, in fish, if we sell fish, then all I can say is the cohort works a lot. But if you talk about chicken, then I actually have lab tests which through the whole life cycle of the chicken. And if we can communicate in a simple way to the consumer, then that is the differentiation. Now, if we have free-range eggs, why not we just show the videos of the farms and stuff like that? In fact, something interesting that Pescafresh just launched, we launched the Pesca Live on our app. So it's the first time in the world that we are beaming live from our app at 9:30 in the mornings. So you don't need to go to a fish market. Some compare is there. They're educating you. This is the fish, and that's the same fish that will come to your house. Now, suppose if you want to go to a farm, I can't take everybody to the farm, or I can't take everybody to the ocean on a trawler. But hey, what if I beam live to you? Wouldn't that be transparent? Wouldn't that be a differentiator? So these are the kind of things that Pesca is pioneered right now. Please download the app. Log in at 9:30 a.m. and don't mind if I speak about my brand a little more, okay? But that's the kind of differentiation that we are looking at.
No, that's great, and I guess many of our D2C brands are here, and they can relate to this. Is 78% of the repeat rate. It's quite successful. It's a wonderful number. Now, moving on, what do you think, in your view, Charanjeev, is these elements are? Do you want to add on this, or do you think there's other factor? But I guess the way you operate the business is quite different from the traditional D2C.
So, Sasrikal to the audience. I run a company called Singh Styled, which is for grooming and styling sardars. Nobody was doing it, so comes me. I have always said, so I'll break this into 2 parts in short. The success of D2Cs happened, and I don't see D2C, I always say modern businesses. Okay? The success of modern businesses happened because of digitalization. So I thanks to Mukesh Ambani. But the second thing is I thanks the consumer. Consumer India today is giving chances to brands. They want to taste every brand. So when you are building a brand and going to the customer, if you had gone to my mother will say, "Sir, Saffola अच्छा है, आप जाइए बाहर." ठीक है? Till date we pursue my mom, अच्छा कोई नया तेल ले लो, नहीं चाहिए. तुम्हारा हार्ट अभी भी बचा हुआ है, इतने मोटे हो, क्योंकि सफोला खा रहे हैं हम लोग घर पे. ठीक है जी. But when it comes to our household, me and my wife, we give chances to a lot of brands, and that's consumer India today. The third thing is that D2C brands, also the modern businesses, what HULs and all have been trying hard, it's been easy for modern businesses to go quickly to tier 2 and tier 3 India, where they couldn't go. So like, there was no Gucci over there was no Prada, but there's a Snitch, there's a Singh Style going. I'm sending to remote places of Punjab, and they can't even open the app. Probably they say, "Oh ji, तुहाडा असी Instagram ad तक्या है, असी वो ਰੀਲ ਬਣਾਉਣੇ ਪਏ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਤੱਕਿਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਟਰਬਨ ਬੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਿਨਮਨ ਬਰਾਊਨ ਕਲਰ ਦਾ ਟਰਬਨ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਰੇ ਸਰ ਯੂ ਗੋ ਐਂਡ ਬਾਏ ਫਰੋਮ ਯੋਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ में तो बहुत सारे हैं नहीं ये ब्रांडेड है ਵਧੀਆ ਹੋਏਗਾ so the aspiration of tier 2 and tier 3 is being fed by D2C brands. So that's the success of D2C today or modern businesses.
No, makes sense completely. And what's your take on this, Siddharth? I mean, from Snitch point of view.
Yeah, so I personally feel the most important thing is building trust, and no brand could actually scale without building trust amongst their consumers. And how do you do that, right? It is just common sense that you deliver whatever you promise. So when we started off, I come from a completely different background. I was into retail and then got into trading and then got into manufacturing and then moved online post-COVID. And we are barely about 20 months old on our roadmap to hit 100 crores being bootstrapped. And how did we do this is obviously delivering whatever we've promised our consumers in terms of product, in terms of service, in terms of returns. We were one of the first one of the first brands that gave refunds at your doorstep. Right? So when you're competing with the big guns, your service needs to be at par with them, which I think is really important and the basic criteria to successfully build a D2C brand. And of course, then it is your branding, your communication, your content, who is your relevant TG, what do they like doing, what do they like listening, and just play around that whole segment.
No, makes sense. Now you touched upon a very good point of TG, and trust, obviously, refunds, customer support. At the end of the day, at the heart of D2C is the consumer itself. How well you can serve the consumer is the key element as well. But when you say about TG, I want to understand from Mohit as well on what his take is on this element when it comes to your target audience. How do you choose the target audience, let's say? Because obviously that becomes one of the key element for your success as well.
Yeah, hi. So let me just introduce myself first. So I'm Mohit Rathod from Truly Desi. So basically we are into A2 dairy products as well as organic groceries, vegetables and fruits. So we directly work with farmers on ground. We produce everything in-house and then we sell it through our online platforms as well as retail stores like Nature's Basket, Reliance Signature. So coming back to the point, the elements behind a success of any D2C brand. So what I feel is number one, intent should be clear. That why you want to do something. If you want to introduce a product, if you want to come up with a solution. So first know the problem, first understand the market, understand the need of the customer, and then create a product out of it. And do a lot of R&D, put in a lot of efforts to make that product, create it, so that when you push it in the market, that time automatically the customer segment which you're targeting, they starts consuming it or they start absorbing it. So number one thing is the right product at the right time. You need to have a good team with you. You cannot do this all alone. You need to have a good set of teams. Start with 2 people, 3 people, 5 people. But yeah, you need to have a team with you. And another thing is customer experience. That's what we all have been talking about. So I've always felt, and I want to hire a customer experience officer in my team as well. I am a chief executive officer. I need to have 2 CEOs.
Oh.
Another one will be a customer experience officer, because today the times are such that you need to sustain the value. We all have been delivering the values since years. A lot of retail brands have been delivering values since years. But the major factor that the D2C boom happened because of the customer experience. We have started listening to the customer, we have started taking care of the needs of the customer, and we have actually making an effort to make a point that आज नहीं तो हम आपको ये कल देंगे, but देंगे. So we customer centric. So we need to take care of that customer experience at our end. And of course, trust becomes the most important factor. And as you said that we need to target the right segment. So that's a part of the market research. And I feel that every brand should put about 3 to 6 months in market research, do thorough market research, go home to home, go house to house, meet people, talk to people, put in people to, get the surveys done, get more of quality data. Don't focus on the quantification of it. So you need quality data to, at the end of it, sit and analyze it, and you shortlist what you want to target.
Perfect. Well, that's a good summary of intent, effort, and the team.
Right.
So obviously we know now that you require a CXO, so anyone from the audience can reach out to him. Now, moving on to the next question, I think I'll start with Shekhar. Of what do you think are the opportunity in this market, in the growing D2C for traditional retailers? How do you think they will cope up to the growing number of direct-to-consumer brands?
Sure. Hi everyone. I run Redesign. We're basically a platform which brings around 200 new designs for millennials and Gen Z across fashion and accessories. So just touching upon the previous point as well, and then going to how traditional businesses can, right? One of the key things, so it's one of the biggest opportunities that we have at the moment. The go-to market has never been easier for even the most traditional businesses, because you have platforms like Dukaan. There are a few other players here who are bringing tech and innovation. So getting a product online or cataloging is not a problem. You've got your logistics figured out. So what are you really solving for is essentially customer acquisition. So there's around 10 players in the same row, because the business development managers acquired all of them. Now they're all on the same tool. All of them have a storefront. But what they're really solving for is customer acquisition and community building around why their offering is different from another. Something that we always follow is you can't sing ghazals at a prom. Because your consumer is changing very rapidly. For us, at least us, for millennials and Gen Z, if it is a consumer brand targeting that audience, you're dancing on one reel today, another reel a week later. You want to wear this t-shirt, you want to go classic a week later. So the strategies have got to be agile. The brand and the platform has got to be fluid in the way that they approach how consumers behave with their platform. Discounts are not going to cut it. Your service and execution will. So how warm you are to your one particular kirana store, or how that person is to you, matters a lot more than you probably ordering from Swiggy at some point, because your 10-minute grocery delivery might not work. So it's just about people. I think psychology has got a big role to play in this. And which I think traditional businesses understand better than us as D2C, because we're sitting in a metro city and acquiring customer in tier 2, 3 cities. But those people understand on the ground what's happening. And maybe we could learn from them, and they could learn from our scaling abilities on how they could do that.
I think that answers a lot of questions, because apparently a lot of traditional retailers obviously have scaled up in e-commerce, and it's vice versa, right? I mean, D2C have scaled up into the offline sectors as well. And I guess it's all about customer retention, because I think moreover, if you think about the last 6 months, the D2C industry has now started focusing more on the retention part of it rather than the acquisition. And that...
Absolutely. I mean, I agree 100%. Like 78% is just insane.
78%, I mean,
absolutely die to have that kind of a retention number. I think it's a byproduct of what you're doing for acquisition, and your execution is just phenomenal. That comes together to give you the kind of retention percentage that your business would love to enjoy.
No, I will definitely eat your mind later to understand how did you manage to get 78% of repeat. That's a really good number. So moving on to you, what do you think would be the opportunities for traditional retailers? How do they basically capitalize on this wave of growth in D2C?
Yeah, so I think it's just logical that traditional retailers, I think you're referring to modern trade?
Yep.
Modern trade, right? So I think it's just a matter of time that nobody can ignore technology right now. I mean, frankly, we started off as a call center sale 17 years back. So it was not even online, but the way the wave caught up post 2015, we've also been forced to invest in our own tech stacks and things like that. So it's just a matter of time. You forget technology and you forget the business. It's as clear as that. And I think the whole thing is traditional retailers, I think they can build tech stacks, but what I've seen in my experience with them is so important when you're a D2C brand to remove the trading mindset. So the trading mindset can be quite a challenge, right? So if the modern trade wants to deal with a brand, an X brand, and they actually have got good traction in D2C and stuff like that. But if you don't give them shelf space, if you just treat it as a listing fee, you treat your retail store like a real estate store, you're going to be in a problem. You know, the consumers are never going to engage with you. So technology is not all of it, but consumer engagement for traditional retails is going to be extremely, extremely important. How they're able to capture that data when the consumer walks into that door. And that's where the advantage of D2C is. We have all the data. When do you order? What's your AOV? What time do you buy? What is your pattern? I mean, we can actually, there are tools now to work on predictive consumption, you know, rather than keep giving notifications on the app. Wouldn't it be nice to predict what your consumer is going to buy? Similarly, that kind of predictive stuff, if modern trade can give and give the right message rather than spamming, that would be good. They need to integrate more with external brands, go beyond just RTVs and margins and stuff like that. So that is always going to be a challenge. Unless they change that, no amount of technology will really get the consumer engaged. And I think if you want sales to go up, all of us want, retailers want, brands want, it's all about consumer engagement and giving that additional value. So I feel technology is hygiene now. Every retailer has got enough resources to get the best engineers and build their own tech stack. But how do you adapt technology to consumer engagement? That's going to be most important. That's what I feel, you know.
No, it makes sense. So basically what we're saying is tech stack, integration, and engagement are the learning that the traditional retailers should adopt to. And I think this brings to the next very interesting questions for Truly Desi. Because you compete with a lot of traditional retailer directly, right? I mean, how do you see the traditional retailer adopting to the way the new modern commerce work, or the D2C work?
You know, see, as he said that they have enough resources to, you know, just put in technology together and just keep on selling their products. But again, we come back to the customer experience.
Right.
They lack that. Because that's why the D2C was born. Because the customer experience was missing. Nobody was listening to a customer. See, if today I'll tell you what a normal day at Truly Desi looks like. So every morning we deliver about thousands of liters of milk to the doorsteps of our customers. And कभी किसी customer के घर पे दूध नहीं गया या उसने बैग में नहीं रखा delivery boy ने, they just give a call to us. You know, आज दूध आया उसने बैग में नहीं डाला था. And then we tell them we are really sorry about it. If you want, we can send a replacement. If the milk has spoiled, and if you need any kind of refund for that, we are always ready to do that. So making ourselves available for the customer and solving the problem, that is the most important thing. And somewhere what I feel that traditional retailers are lacking that thing. And if you see, I've met a couple of companies outside this ballroom, and they're helping retailers to use AI-based, IoT-based technology to improve their sales, improve the performance and everything. But at the end of the day, if the customer is not really happy with the experience and the after-sales service, then it would get very difficult for them to continue this.
Right. I guess, yeah, that makes sense, because even for me, if you ask me, the reason I would choose a D2C brand modern would be the personal touch. So I know they will hear me, they'll support me rather than someone, let's say, who might not understand my problem, if there's any problem with the product or the service.
Right.
No, I think that's a valid point. So even if it's Singh Styled, do you agree with this, or do you have anything to add to that with the traditional retailers?
I agree to all the points. I think you tell me which, who all can, if you have a problem with any of your biscuits, how many times can you reach the CEO of HOL? I to get daily calls. My colleague is over here. Like I get up in the morning and I get one mail. Charanjeev, problem hai. Right. So there's a consumer interaction which is happening between founders and or modern businesses and and consumers. And that's where the faith lies, right? All this information which is passed, which we are discussing right now, is basically there is that wall which was there between the consumer and the founders was broken down by modern retail. All right. Today we are building products which is, traditional retailers, I don't know about them. I think one fine day they will die out, according to me. And these modern retailers will become the next big thing, right? And the reason why is because they have always looked at masses. We have always have looked at niches, right? We look at niche. We keep on building each and every product to fulfill that gap what that particular niche would be requiring, right? That's our growth. Our growth has been purely based on that. So you say retention, he's got 78, I'm getting 60, 65. We're competing now, but now I have to go back and think how I get 80. But we know how to get to that 80 also. Is basically build that particular product which, we're daily talking to our customers. The beard deodorant that we launched, how many beard deodorants have somebody has heard? But one fine day, a customer just calls up and says, "यार मेरा खाना तो दाढ़ी पर गिर जाता है, मैं तो उसको धो भी नहीं सकता दाढ़ी को, तो कुछ कर." And that's where the beard deodorant came into the picture, right? Just splash that onto your beard and your beard is clean and it's smelling good, right? He's saying that my wife couldn't sit next to me. And that's where the beard deodorant is working for him, right? So when you're interacting daily with your customers basically, you're the first product which will go out from from a D2C, successful D2C brand is which fulfills the founder's need. I built Singh Styled to fulfill my need, which was not been available, right? The next set of products have come from the customers where we are engaging with them, right? So that's the difference between D2C and modern traditional retailers. I don't know how long they'll survive, but good luck to them.
No, it makes sense. I mean, the transparency and masses was a niche is a very good point, because apparently, obviously, most of the retailer, traditional big giants, they've always worked on the Excels and the number games of how they can double these conglomerates. But I guess the new way of looking the market now would be, how do you address those specific pain points of the customer rather than just increasing your top line, basically? No, that's a very valid point. And so do you want to add anything, Siddharth, here on this point?
I think most important is mindset, right? So traditional brands or traditional modern trade has their set of values and their set of ideas. And, just to give you an example, I was at a event in Chennai, and there was one big chain of retail store guy, and he was like, "Wow, how do you crack that 100 crore revenue in 2 years being online?" And then he asked me for my marketing budget. And when I told him the figure, he was stunned. And he was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And then I asked him, "How much are you investing in your next store?" And it was a similar figure. And I told him, "Now you are investing so much of money on one particular store, while I've invested that money to open 24,000 pin codes." So the mindset is very important, and what you want to do. Whether you want to stick to one particular area, one particular zone, or you want to, go across all borders. So the mindset plays, a key role here.
No, makes sense. Now, on this, Abhinav, I guess the way your model is, it might have a different impact. So what's your point of view on traditional retailers?
See, I think I will take a contradictory viewpoint from Charanjeev. I think traditional retailers have a very important role to play, and I think they have a unique advantage as well. We can think of it, it's not looking at them as monolith. But let's say, I'll give an example, for example, how COVID was used by a small, let's say, supermarket chain in Mumbai, where they went so aggressively but so compassionately through apartment communities, right? Providing them with a supply chain of key ingredients, having a great product assortment, which was relevant, which could not be met by, at that point of time, by lots of D2C brands like ours, or even a more regular brand that's available in each of our homes. They understood the market, they got the supply chain, they maintained fantastic relationships with those traditional vendors of theirs. So they actually gained phenomenally in that window, wherein even post-pandemic, most people have maintained those relations and have continued to, support them, because that particular chain, that particular retailer supported these communities in those times. Right? So they understand the market, they have a more local touch, they can respond faster in some cases, right? Not in all cases, but in some cases. So being aware that you, even as a traditional retailer, not even, as a traditional retailer, you bring a unique strength, a unique ability that a D2C brand can, in some cases, cannot, right? And then you, of course, can be an aggregator of brands at a local level, at a better level than a D2C. For example, if I go to Dunzo, unlikely if I'll go to the ITC store and buy only ITC stuff, or a HUL store, buy only HUL stuff. If there's a store nearby, a retailer chain near me, right, which I know I can get a product assortment that I normally need, I just get it from them. Right? So, and there is a slippery slope there where what happens with traditional, because their systems are not as properly well keyed in, as he mentioned, that their tech stacks are not proper, the inventory management systems sometimes can be missing, right, or lacking. So when certain times, they would replace products for you, or there'd be products outages when you expect it to be available, right? So that can actually make you lose customers, right? When the final bit, which is, customer response and customer experience comes in. So if you make a mistake, if there's something, then, delight them. Right? So something that we do at GoodDO, if we have made a mistake, whether it's through us or through our delivery partners, if a customer is supposed to get something in 3 days and it takes 5 days or 6 days, and you enrage them, we try to delight them with some freebies, discounts, etc., which traditional retailers can open their minds to and take away that typical trading mindset that, okay, it's a transaction, one-time transaction, treat it as an infinite game, right? So that you can delight the customer. That one customer who was peeved once, but you delighted them, he's going to tell 10 other people, and you're going to, maximize your gains that way.
Got it. So what we are saying is basically, if traditional retailer obviously should move toward the D2C as well, where they approach more toward the customer-centric, the service and more personalization based on their shopping behavior, right?
Absolutely. They have a unique vantage point.
Perfect. Moving on to the next part of this conversation is, as we rightly said in the last one, one of the key elements is the technology when it comes to D2C growth. Now, at what stage does a focus on the technology make sense for any D2C brand? So I'll start with Shekhar.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you need to identify if you're a retailer is what really is your goal. How large do you really want to get? One of the things that matters. However, that does not take away from the fact that you can leverage technology at any given point, no matter how traditional or how small a business you are. So one is that, I mean, just at this point today where we've become, as D2C founders, so unhealthily oriented towards performance marketing and the tools around performance marketing and the spends that go around it, that it's become a norm that it's a bounce rate to 35 ही होता है. Conversion rate 1% से ऊपर नहीं जाएगा. People are going to bounce off your website. But you paid money for it, right? So if you are really going to deep, if you say that अच्छा हम इस महीने लाख रुपए के ऊपर नहीं spend कर रहे हैं, we are going to, और सिर्फ 10,000 नहीं spend कर रहे हैं for a smaller business, you're going to deep dive and see why these 10,000 users bounced off. Why did they really not purchase, or why are these carts abandoned? And then you can send them all the emails, but you might not know the actual reason. That probably your page wasn't nice, probably didn't connect with your product. So there are, I mean, at all levels, from the first interaction with your website to the point where you're executing your order, to the point where you're delivering and taking feedback. There's just before this, I think Pazo was talking about how that execution was done for the last, I think that should be executed for last mile delivery boys. I don't know if my cash on delivery order was delivered politely or not, right? So the execution capability of technology for a retailer to an enabler to even a customer experience level is phenomenal. It's just about what your goal really is. If you define that well as a founder and who your key stakeholders are, I think great results can be achieved from that.
Yep. So I guess if I want to summarize, I'll say, okay, obviously you can enable technology at any level, but at the heart of it, every operation requires some technology enablement.
Yes, for sure. I mean, different supply chains here. There is perishable items, there's non-perishable items that we're all serving with. There is stores which need a range planning that is going to go there. We are operating, I mean, I've come from that mindset that I don't want to keep inventory. I've seen a sell-through for 10,000 units that were planned. And we had a 70% sell-through, 30% sitting on dead stock. That pained us a lot. For a small retailer, that could be a dead business in the matter of a few months. If there was demand planning, if there was leverage of data, that probably would not have happened if you understood your customers better. So all levels of your value chain technology should and must be leveraged.
Makes sense. So, Sangram, what do you think would be the focus of technology when it comes to scaling up your D2C? Where exactly should they focus on what aspect of business?
So, the business, the industry that we operate is a very complex industry where shelf lives are 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. So, what we believe at Pesca is technology has to enhance your operations, make it productive, make it efficient. Like I'll give you an example. Procurement is an important part of our business, since 60% of my revenues come from just fresh seafood. So we actually, and something in Machilipatnam would cost very different than something in Verawal in Gujarat. So we were actually building that technology where information flows from about 100 landing centers, and then we can pick and choose which is fastest to market. Then you have your mid-mile. I mean, when we started, we didn't have these IoT solutions of temperature sensors. Today we have a dashboard. If you've got 45 chillers across different locations in Pescafresh, then I know that on a dashboard you can see that it's at 3 degrees. The moment it goes to 4.05 also, then a message is shot to that area manager or that store manager. So technology helps in that also. Then I think then comes the consumer side. How do you use technology for customer acquisition? How do you use technology to build transparency? So something I spoke about just some time back on Pesca Live, I mean, it is completely geared towards transparency. And I think that's what technology needs to do, is bring in transparency. That's like the core founding block of technology. And if a consumer can know where the product comes from, if he can trust the brand, if we are ready to keep it all open. Like, when I was a kid, my dad always took me to restaurants with open kitchens. And I used to ask him, why do you do that? I said, because I just want to make sure that I can see that the food is cooked in a hygienic manner. And that's what we're trying to do with technology on the front end also. And I agree to what he said about we are D2C brands. I think one thing where we get very tempted to do is throw money at a problem, trying to market it. So the performance marketing part, I mean, I've been part of a journey at Pesca where online was not existent at all. And now we've transitioned to that. So I don't understand when you have to live with numbers of 0.3 ROAS or 0.4 ROAS. And obviously those ROASs go up over time as you keep investing. And that's something you do. But then we also believe that brand building, below the line stuff, these are things that are still existent. Visibility in modern trade also many times. These are actually existing things. And a combination of all these things can actually take your brand to the next level. So I think, technology can be used in all facets of your brand, right from first mile, mid mile, last mile, consumer facing, productivity, everything.
Post-purchase.
Absolutely. I mean, and there are enough plugins, right? So young brands, if you don't have that capital to build a tech stack and spend 1 crore or 2 crores or 3 crores, there are enough plugins in the market which allow you to do that. Obviously, it won't be that seamless. Few languages can't talk to each other, but we'll get there eventually with scale.
Yep. That makes sense completely. And what role does technology play at Singh Style? I mean, how do you view it?
Can you come again?
Sorry, for Singh Style, sir.
So for us, technology, see, I'm not that big as all these other brands. For me, technology comes from day one when we started with Shopify. Right? And then we had the analytics in that. We had, at first I saw a dashboard where I saw people coming live and then going to the cart, and from the cart going to the checkout page, and then boom, कुछ product कोई खरीदा नहीं उसने. But that's for us. So I think from every sector to sector, it changes, right? Their requirements start from day zero, wherein they want to know, they would have a ITC Chopal where you know, आज meat का rate कितना है, आज fish का rate कहाँ पे कितना है, and then you know which market to procure, right? For clothing, it's something different. For GoodDO, it's something different. For Shikhar, it's totally different ball game. I think you don't need to talk too much about technology, because as and how you're going to grow, you can figure out what the requirements are, right? And then there are ample of, as he said, plugins are available. You keep on plugging in and keep on scaling.
So it's an enabler at the end of the day, and it will start enabling you whenever
Yeah,
you're...
but technology, again, I will say, for a D2C brand, technology cannot be a replacement to the human
Obviously.
touch, right? A lot of brands I have seen have been doing that. Till date, I used to send first handwritten notes, right? That was for me when I started. Hi, my name is Charanjeev, I'm the founder of Singh Styled. Thanks for buying from me, and this is my direct number, right? Then one day it came that अभी तो यार 200-300 भेजने हैं दिन का, कैसे भेजेंगे?
Right.
Then we went into automation. Then I suddenly started seeing that people started understanding ये तो cold mail आ रहा है.
Right.
Right? There was no response. Then I started writing mails directly. I used to copy paste and put in the CC and BCC and then send it out. Right? And then they said, हाँ ये तो मतलब चरण ने अपने से लिखा है.
Right. No, makes sense.
Right? So as you're scaling up, for me, technology is just the comfort factor to see whether we are going right or wrong. But the main thing is the human interaction. That I don't know how technology is going to help us.
It makes sense. I mean, customer experience and your personal touch with the customer cannot be replaced by technology. But I guess at some point of time, technology can act as an enabler, or basically...
Oh, by the way, we are now working on a software where now Mr. Singh can come to my site and see which turban goes with his shirt, t-shirt, because I get every day at 4:30, 5:30 an SMS. आज मेरा interview है, ये with all the shirts, all the pants, the shoes, and the turbans, and they'll ask me what to wear. So technology is going to now solve that, because I'm not a dress designer, so we've got a team behind which is working on that, where they'll say, okay, with this particular check turban, what all things. So technology over there is going to be a boom, and that's something that people will open an app every day.
No, makes sense.
Right.
So what's your take on this, Abhinav? I mean...
So it's a pretty loaded question, right? Technology is such a wide thing. We could be talking about whether we look at the production side of things, the supply chain side of things, the front-end marketing and sales side of things. For us, being a product company, a real-world product company, not the IT product company, something that really helped us very early on was knowing our abilities, right, as a company, and our objectives, right? So our first objective was, of course, to get a product. It's an innovative product, plant-based meat. Nobody knows. We didn't know whether we could make it, right? So it was highly deep tech in terms of the production of these products. We could have, bought some very expensive equipments from Switzerland or US, and probably paid about 7 or 8 crores. And there, if I were to use the word, technology very widely, or at the core of it, we actually made some very small little edits, brought in a little bit of manual element to a basic setup, and we could do the whole thing in about 2.5 crores instead of a 7 crore, right? So you could save. As a company, you need to have your objectives very clear, where you want to spend your money in developing your technology at which level, because it's very easy to get overtly committed, right, to using technology at any and all steps. And I totally get what Charan's talking about, right? That you need to be mindful of, technology shouldn't be for technology's sake. Right. That at GoodDO we are very, very particular, even though being a new age or a modern company that he mentioned, we are very mindful of where we spend our money, what the return on that particular technology enablement would be across the life cycle of that technology. And of course, something at the other end we do very aggressively is around consumer analytics and understanding the customers. I think there's a plethora of stuff where you need to understand, okay, this is the channel that I'm going to go for. So for that channel, this particular set of technical skills and technological stacks are important. That's where we invest. And other ones which are, let's say, a little more cursory, you know, a little bit, it may make you look good or, you know, sound good in terms of investors, but it doesn't give you the return. So we, you know, shy away from those kind of investments.
So that brings to a very good point, because apparently even we have felt that the retailers who wants to invest in technology, but at the end of the day, they tend to become a technology company than a retail company. Because technology in itself is a mammoth. And the problem that it solves require constant dedication and that kind of focus. So I guess with Truly Desi as well, at what stage do you think technology and what role does technology play?
You know, I would like to give our example because I still remember those days when we used to take orders on WhatsApp and people used to say, ki, this is our address, just start delivering milk from tomorrow. And I remember we have delivered few hundreds milk every day just on WhatsApp. And we used to create the delivery schedules on WhatsApp, send it to the delivery guys. And in the initial 6 months, I used to deliver milk myself. So I understand that at what time I was supposed to use the technology in my entire supply chain, right from the production to the last mile delivery. So right now, yeah, we have a website, we have an application, but the core of the business is always, it remains the same. That
Right.
we are still very focused. We do not have a chatbot on WhatsApp because we feel that chatbot aa gaya na, to customer ko pata hai he is talking to a bot. Right? That's why you lose the entire customer experience. Because you get the same chatbot on Big Basket, you get the same chatbot on JioMart, you get the same chatbot on N number of websites. If I'm putting in a chatbot, then I'm losing the customer experience. I'm not able to talk to my customers. Even today, all my customers, not all, I would say about 20% of them know me personally. They talk to me on a daily basis. They share their problems with me, and that's where it gets easier for us to, understand their problems. But as far as technology is concerned, we are working on the technology part as well. Now we are working on giving traceability in milk. So now we want to give traceability till the farm. So if a customer just scans the QR code on the pouch, he'll get to know the exact geo-tag location of the farm, as well as the details about the farmers, how many cattle are there, how much production are we making there, and so on and so forth. So we are replicating that for vegetables, fruits, and groceries, everything. So technology needs to come in and at a certain point of time, but I feel it's up to the entrepreneur. They are smart enough to understand that when the technology should be introduced in their business.
When to focus on technology.
Yes, and you are right. You said it right that it's an enabler. It cannot. You cannot be dependent on technology.
Right. And there are times when obviously we go overboard with technology, trying a lot of things. But do you think with let's say Snitch, how frequently do you need to experiment with technology, or is it if something is working, let's be there, and let's not touch too much technology? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, see, it again depends brand to brand, case to case, product to product. But I think, the first thing that you want to do if you want to start something is don't waste time. So if you're willing to start something, start off like he said. He was doing it on WhatsApp. It is free of cost. You could engage to your consumers personally. It could be your friends and family who would actually give you honest reviews. Gain that confidence in yourself to invest in technology. So obviously when you see good traction maybe on WhatsApp, you have your likes of Dukaan now where you could set up your store in maybe 60 seconds. Shopify is always there. So technology is all readily available. It is at what point of time you feel that you need to shift gears now. So the same thing happened with us. We started off within 48 hours of taking a decision to go online, right, with just barely 30 products. Today we have 2,000 plus. So we started off with 30 products. We understood. I mean, it's going to take you at least 6 to 8 months to understand, where the business is heading. You might change your views every month unless you find the right path. So I think you should not break your head too much on these elements, what to bring in, what kind of teams do you want, what kind of tech. It is just, you would get it on your way. But just stick to basics. And for me, business is always about creating value. So if you could create that value, everything else is readily available.
Makes sense, makes sense. So with that, I guess tech is obviously an enabler, and at times, at various stages, D2C will find out what sort of technology enablement they require. And just to add, I guess it's implement fast and fail fast, I think would be one of the added benefit with technology. Now, coming to the last set of my question, and then we'll open up for the audience as well to ask questions. What are the core, let's say, top 2 or 3 things that you think a new D2C brand should consider while scaling up? So, yeah, I'll start with you.
I mean, a lot of metrics. First thing is you're looking at your sessions. Are they increasing? The number of visitors, are they increasing? Is your conversion rate increasing? If it is not increasing, what is the reason behind it? If there are a few particular products where your bounce rate is high, what is the issue? Why that particular product has a higher bounce rate? It could be, some lack of information there, or it could be anything. What is your customer acquisition cost versus your LTV? What ratio are you at? In terms of conversion rates, like what kind of conversion rates are you? Is it growing month on month, or is it declining as you're scaling? So it is a mix of a lot of metrics that we study on a daily basis. In terms of retention, like whom do you target? You can't keep spamming everyone every single day, right? So we use a lot of filters while doing a retention campaign. Someone who's got an SMS message should not get WhatsApp. Someone who's getting a WhatsApp message should not get an email again at the same time. So you can't just keep bombarding them with a lot of messages. You need to filter your audiences. Someone who's just placed an order, you cannot again remarket to him. At least leave the last 30 days and then start off with your retention marketing. So there are a lot of metrics which it is different for every business that you do. But yeah, the basics are these: that are you seeing a month-on-month growth? Is your retention rate increasing? What kind of value are you adding, in terms of delivery, in terms of discounts? For example, with every order that we ship, we just send a thank you card, which is a 150 rupees off on the next purchase, and we get almost 5,000 orders out of it. So these are just basic things that you need to figure out, and then it obviously depends brand to brand.
Perfect. Now that makes sense. What about you, Abhinav? What are the key factors or elements that a brand should consider?
See, while scale up, it really it's going to be dependent on what is the nature of scale up, right? Are you looking at if you're into production, are you looking at massive capex expansion, right? Is that the kind of scale up you're looking at? Then you have to be, of course, very cautious about your cash flows, right? Do your cash flows allow for that scale up? Is the current, as he mentioned, is the current trend giving you enough confidence that, okay, if you put in that XYZ amount of money, you're going to be covered? In that sense, you have to look at the wider context. What is the competition looking like? Are there new entrants that are going to come in and maybe erode into your market share? Have they already started doing that or not? Right? So that would be the first key thing that I would look at. In terms of a marketing scale up, I think it's because let's say investments won't be that gargantuan, right? So you can take a little more risk in that and informed risk in terms of what your objectives are, right? Are you looking at a brand growth? Are you looking to do an organic marketing? Are you looking to get for that scale up? Are you looking to get a brand ambassador? So for example, we about 9 months ago decided, all right, we need a brand ambassador. We signed up, and after a lot of deliberation, signed up Neeraj Chopra. It was a lot of course, for a small brand, these activities are significant outflow of money,
Yes.
and so we had to be ready that what my objective was. Correct. So I would, pretty much for most of our decisions, we look at what my objective is, whether it is scale up, whether it is technology, whether whatever any other aspect. We look at what the objective is. Is the current investment or that activity going to trigger towards it, right? Thank you.
No, makes sense. So interestingly, so what we are saying is, at a scale, we need to first understand what the outcome or the objective goal for the brand is. So if it's more around, let's say, increasing their capex, basically opening more stores probably, then you require a different set of attributes to measure. If you are looking for brand growth, now how do you think the brand, what the first 2 or 3 levers would look like? Should they focus on the brand growth? Should they look at the scaling the customer base? What 1 or 2 attribute do you think works for the customer?
So we would the first few, again, the key thing that we look at as a D2C brand, that's a significant channel for us, is what we started off with, is customer retention, right? So while you're growing, are you, just getting new customers, making lots of effort and money towards getting those new customers, but losing the current ones. So having that metrics is probably one of our key focus areas. The second thing is our market share, which of course, it's an art and a science. You make a best guess estimate, and looking at the overall market. For us, again, it's a niche area being plant-based meat. We try to look at what the overall market is. Is the market growing? So when let's say a Tata or an ITC comes in, we know that, all right, there's a significant interest. People realize, and what we are seeing is something the rest of the country is also seeing. So we're not living in a bubble or a micro bubble. So we focus on those key matrices in making those initial decisions.
No, makes sense completely. Mohit, what's your take on this?
So I divide the process of business in 4 parts normally. So first you identify the value, then you create the value for your customers, then you deliver it, and then you sustain it. So basically a lot of businesses, a lot of brands, they focus on first 3 parts, that you identify, you create, and then you are delivering it. But not all of them, they focus on sustaining it. That's where the customer retention come in, as he rightly said. That he has a very good customer retention rate. Even we have a very good customer retention rate. That's because we are able to sustain the values. So that is number 1. If you are able to sustain the value, then you will be in the game for a very good time, for a long time. Another thing, you need to keep on disrupting yourself. Keep on making new products. Rather than someone else coming in the market and disrupting you, you yourself disrupt yourself. And then you keep on doing R&D, keep on innovating your product line and pushing them in the market. And another thing, keep a very good check on your finances. Because trust me, money is everything at the end of the day.
It burns like anything in D2C.
Yeah, so these are the things which I normally consider when I need to, start a business or maybe grow my own brand.
No, makes sense completely. So value, deliver those value and sustain it. So what's your take on this, Sangram?
So, for the longest journey at Pescafresh, as my colleagues will, maybe they relate to it, founders suffer from this thing called creative bias, and we focus so much on product, that we forget to actually go out there and sell it. So for the longest time, I didn't want to I thought I've created the next spaceship or something, which is far from the truth, right? So this is the best fish that we have. I'm not going to sell it on another platform. I'm going to make it better. Now I'm going to get some Norwegian salmon imported from Norway, because why? Nobody's done it. It's just that excitement that gets to you, right? Now we got this chicken and it's got no antibiotics ever. It's a US FDA term. So it's so easy for founders of D2C brands to get lost in the creator's bias. And I think that's a big change that I personally have also made, where you can't be pig-headed about it. You got to listen to smarter people. You got to listen to specialists. You know, now we are on quick commerce. Now we've launched a division for modern trade. We are also into B2B. We are trying to integrate B2B and B2C and things like that. So eventually it's about scale, right? I mean, if you want good investments coming in your brand, you want to scale up, you want to get to a good valuation, probably an IPO, strategic sale out, or whatever it may be, eventually you need to sell. So I think that's one thing which, in my humble opinion, is be very careful about the creator's bias, because all we can do is keep creating products, you know, and then the selling part becomes very difficult many times. So that's my take.
No, I think, yeah, that's a very good point, because I think many of the D2C brand owners would relate to this problem. Because it's there, whoever you speak to, like, no, we got this is the best, you know, this. And I think I can club this with Mohit's point as well, is you have to keep on disrupting yourself, you know, and start challenging your own products before anyone else does. I guess that's one of the best feedback that we can take as a growing D2C brand.
Yeah, and it's like a balance, right? So I also relate to what Mohit said. So you can't just stop creating. You have to start creating products, but jo create kiya wo to becho. It's like that, you know.
Yes.
It's like that.
No, and what's your take on this?
I think everyone has spoken on all the points. So I just say to whichever D2C founder that I've met till date, get your why right. Once you get your why right, you don't need to think too much after that. Then the only two areas to focus is, and always believe, that's my thumb rule. Your customer is your real investor. Right? The first customer that buys from you is just buying on trust. He's not buying on anything. No, he doesn't know what customer experience you're going to be providing or what. The only thing is that he knows your why, which is very spelled out very clearly on your website or whatever communication that you send out. The second thing which you have to believe, and which Sir said, is your cash flow.
Yes.
Right? In downturns, when demonetization happened, demonetization happened. For 4 months, we were looking at a zero business, right? Because COD, at that time when we started off, COD was the highest thing. Like every order was a COD order, paise nahi hai.
That's it.
Right? The second phase came in when the pandemic hit us. So when you have your cash flow, if you respect your cash flow, you'll be able to manage the team properly. You'll be in a safe place, right? You don't need to burn it every time. And I always tell founders is, what is plan B for you? Like, for example, you can go to a Facebook, you can have a performance marketing team spending, burning. But what's your plan B if tomorrow Facebook is not there?
Right.
Right? Have you cracked that? Like, for example, today Facebook is not there. Me and Ashwath can go down to the Gurdwara and stand over there and show them the samples or have a pop-up store over there. My plan B, I'm ready with it.
Right.
Right? So when जब जेब में पैसे नहीं आएंगे, मुझे मालूम है क्या करना है आके.
So that's a very good point to have a plan B, I guess.
So yeah, so you have to. So that's why I love being a Sardar. I love the Gujarati community. Most of they are there. उनसे सीखते हैं हम लोग. वो बोलते हैं बढ़िया mentality होनी चाहिए भाई. जेब में पैसे नहीं है ना, तुम जितना उड़ोगे उड़ो.
हाँ.
जहाँ पैनल में बैठना है बैठो, पर तुमको धंधा आना चाहिए इस तरह से कि that you can spend, you don't spend and you get customers. Right? So always I tell all D2C founders, sir मैं Facebook पे ऐड डालूंगा, कल Facebook बंद हो गया भाई.
Right. So their dependency on one platform is very difficult.
So these are the three, four things. If you crack it, you will be successful.
No, makes sense completely. What's your point of view from the technology standpoint?
So I think like you said, everybody's covered a lot of points. I just want to say that when you're thinking of scaling up, it's from a point of view that you believe that it is established that मेरे पास proof of concept है. I want to scale up because there is a formula that works, and I'm going to take this formula and scale it up an X number of times. So I am doing, say, 100 transactions today. I want to do 1,000 transactions. That can't come at the cost of, like they said, the customer you've already acquired. That can't come at the cost of your unit economics as well. Because you're going to be investing heavily in customer acquisition, which is a given because you're scaling up. And that's got to be imperative that if your unit economics are getting crunched because you started scaling up, it's not sustainable for sure. Second, are you supply chain ready for it? If your supply chain is not ready to execute, and if you haven't invested enough in your SOPs or even for say, I mean, 20%, 30% month-on-month growth, you'll probably be firefighting more than scaling up. And I think that's a very bad way to scale up if you're firefighting more than scaling up. So yeah, a balance of both of that and knowing that this is the formula that I'm scaling up while I'm experimenting on something else, that's okay whether that works or not, but my core formula has to work while my unit economics stay healthy.
No, makes sense. So if I have to summarize, the key takeaway for a successful D2C would be focus on the customer experience, manage your cash flow well, work on your retentions, and at the end of the day, have a plan B. If nothing works out, what's your plan B? And with that, we'll open the discussion for audience.